Today's project is to make this shirt again in a periwinkle bluish purplish color. I love this shirt and I wear it all the time. And I'm just adjusting the pattern a little bit this time to lengthen the bottom hem, so it's just a tiny bit longer. But we're ready to go. Working on my second shirt, and this time I'm making the bottom hem a little longer, and I've included a little additional space on not all the hems for seam allowance because I am doing French seams. And this was a free pattern. It's the Monique Simple Linen Tee on fabricsstore.com. So generally seams are done with the right sides together, wrong sides facing out, but since you're doing a French seam 2 times, you do the opposite, so you put the wrong sides together, and I've marked with a little faint W. The first step is a thin hem here. So again, this is like maybe 1/4 of an inch. Or less. I'm doing a really small seam. Again, this is a thin hem because this raw edge is going to be sewn into the hem with the next step. I'm going to fold this back over and then at first I didn't want to do the French seam on my first garment, but then I saw how much neater and nicer it was, and because I want this to be a piece that will last, and because it's ironed, I don't really need pins, so I think right now we'll see. As I'm feeding this, I'm also checking that the raw seam inside is not going to peek through. Again, this is now our hem from our seam. My hem for my seam. I don't know why I'm royal weeing it. I'm just pressing this to the back. And I'm not necessarily showing you after each time I'm sewing. I am tying off and trimming the extra thread. So, sparing you the boring moments. Okay, I've got this French seam, French hem done, and I've got the top stitch for that shoulder piece done so that the seam will stay nicely in place. Next up is putting the sleeves on. All right, so with the French seam, again, this is the first new whole pattern piece that I'm adding to it, so it can get confusing, which side's together. So I have marked this sleeve. I have 2 sleeves, 1 and 2, so I'm doing the first side. So I've marked that the wrong side. Not that it super matters, it's kind of the same on both sides. And this is also marked the wrong side. So I need to put the wrong sides together and the right sides out for the French seam. And I have a center notch from the pattern that I have matched, and I have to match that to the seam. Okay, the battery just died, and it said battery exhausted, and I told my camera, me too, honey, I feel you on that. So I have top stitched next to the seam. So on the back, there's kind of two seams right next to each other. So making sure I'm lining it up with the actual seam stitch. And then from here, I will pin along, and then I will sew those two together, but leaving about 3/8 of an inch, I think that's what the pattern said, at the end free. Here I have got the shoulder sleeve all sewn from the first round for the French seam, and I've pressed it in, and so now I'm going to do the true seam. There. This is where I have to start being careful of when I get to the big seam, because it's a lot of layers of fabric that this needle is going through, which can make it break. I did top stitch on this one, the shoulders as well. So I'm going to iron these and then do another row of top stitching along the shoulder. And again, hopefully not break a needle. We'll see. Alright, I have the shoulder seam completed on both sides now. And so next I'll be measuring up from the front bottom about 1 3/4 inches, 2 inches, because I made this hem a little longer. So I'll be measuring up about 1 3/4 to 2 inches because I made the hem a little longer on both sides and making a dot there before doing the side seams. Made the dot at 2 inches, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So because I'm doing French seams, again I have to start with the wrong sides together to do the armpit and side shirt seam. So this seam on this shirt, I'll put the wrong sides together, do that little inner seam, and then do the main seam. I've got the first side pinned up for the first round of hemming. And the armpit may be a little complicated, but we'll get there. Okay, now for the same side, I'll be doing the encasing, so the wider seam for the rest of the hem. Here's my very dramatic night lighting, okay? Well, here we go to get this seam going. And I didn't pin this because it was all ironed. Now as I get closer here, let me see what I can do about this funky armpit. I'm just folding in any of the rough edges. We'll see how it goes. Pivot. Love me the sound effects. Okay, put this foot back down. Press the seam. I press the seam towards the back of the garment that I just made, the shirt. Now I'm just going to repeat all the steps on the second side, so the second side of the bodice and underside of the sleeve. So just that front seam, inside, right side out, and doing it again, doing it again. So I'll meet you when that's done. Everything's seamed on the inside, so now I have to seam the arms and hem up the sides and the bottom. And I will do the neckline last because for the neckline I'll need bias tape. So that'll be the last thing that I do. So on to the arms. Got one sleeve ironed and I'm working on the other one, just wanting to make sure that they are even. So I'm going to take measurements. The top stitch. I've already ironed the other side, so I will just get started there. Now I will be taking the bottom hems and side slits from the front and then the back and going in twice on that and stitching around. I've got the side and bottom seams ironed, so I'm going to top stitch over this and then head to the front. Okay, so everything is hemmed except the neckline. And I'm going to lower the neckline a little bit. It's a little cutting me off here. And that will, I think, also change the drape of this a little bit. And then I have to do the bias tape and attach the button, which I don't have yet. I'll figure it out. And it's getting late. I'll do a little bit more. The next step here, this is the back slit so that my head can fit through. And so I'm making more of a U shape with it, so cutting out some more. I'm also going to make it a little longer because I have a giant head. So let me just give it a little additional. So this is thin bias tape. It's 1/2 inch. You make it from 1 inch of the biased fabric. I'm folding it in on itself and then sewing down here so that this can be the button loop. I have made the bias tape, and so my next step is to encase the edge of the back. Hem going on here with the bias tape for the back loop. I'm going to sew that up. got the loop cut to the size so that it will go over the button. The button loop sewed in, I need to put the bias tape around the neckline, but Neptune is attacking it on the floor right now. So, go about this carefully. Okay, it's late. Here is the neckline all pinned in. Gonna give it a sew. Now to sew on the button. The button has been affixed. I will have to show you in the day when the light isn't so glaring, but styled. This is just me wearing what I have on. It's probably, yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh, hey, stop attacking this. Neptune, stop. I gotta go to bed. I'm driving down to LA tomorrow. Alright, I did it. Yay. Good night. Neptune, silly girl. I guess we'll check out Neptune.